This episode is brought to you by Canada Post. Custom solutions for complex problems, brought to you by Canada's address experts. Visit them at canadapost.ca. It is time for This Week in Location-Based Marketing. We are recording this live between Asif Khan and myself on Sunday, April 15th, and this is episode number 73. Welcome to episode number 73. My name, Rob Woodbridge.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to yet another jam-packed show. I mean, there's plenty to talk about as usual, and obviously some really big acquisitions as well.
I'd say just a few, right?
Yeah, just a
maybe
few.
One or so. But this is that place you come to. We look back at the week that was, try to decipher some of the things that were most important in this world of location-based marketing, and bring it to you for your drive in on Monday morning. And then for the rest of the week, you can enjoy it as well. Some witty, some witty content and banter back and forth. But certainly most of this is about news. Let's start there. Let's start with what is going on with the LBMA this week. It is a big week for you guys because of Wednesday's event.
Yeah, so if you're in the Toronto area, the LBMA Toronto chapter is having their next event, and so 3 to 7 o'clock in the PM. At KPMG's Bay Adelaide facility, and we're talking about all about data, geofencing data, social location data, mashing up that data with direct marketing and census data, and how we can use all this data to make better decisions, and the role that location plays in that. So it's going to be really interesting, and obviously our sponsors, Canada Post, are also sponsoring this event as well. So. Really looking forward to it. I think we got a great panel, and it's going to be a great discussion.
Well, I will be involved. Well, you should do that. Just go to the lbma.com. There's a link to the registration page, and go and register for that if you are in Toronto or plan on being in Toronto on a Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. I have a different trip, a different kind of location trip that is going to happen at that very same time. Well, actually, it's not that very same time. It's starting the 16th of April. Pulling it up on my screen right now. You, Asif, unfortunately don't get to see this. But for those of you who are at home, we'll probably get kicked off YouTube for this. But I'm going to be in. I'm going to be in Albany tomorrow to go and see my man Bruce Springsteen. There you go.
Hey.
Last minute tickets. Rearranged my entire schedule. Disrupted my entire family so that I could go and see Bruce Springsteen in concert. Yes, I'm 19. Yes, it is a location for me. But 2 different events. Big week ahead of us. That's for sure. But if you can make it to the LBMA, go to the LBMA's website, thelbma.com, to register for that event. I'm going to pull that back up so we're back to business. Just had to do a little bit of Bruce Springsteen. Yeah. Cool. So this week, big week, big week, obviously. Certainly the biggest news this week was one of our last news items that we'll get to, which was Facebook bookending this week. It kind of caught us all by surprise on an Easter Monday, decided to go and spend a lot of money, and then bookended it on Friday by buying another mobile company. But we've got QuantumDigital. We got some news from them. We've got a company that we actually talked about back in the day, which is the one that Facebook acquired at the end of the week. We've got PointInside with some news, Picksie with some news, Jetshop, some cool technology. Our product of the week is a retro look at a company that we're going to talk about because they were acquired, a company called Aislebuyer, and I sat down with Andrew Paradise, who is their CEO, a while back to discuss what they were doing with Aislebuyer. Very cool technology. But all this, I don't know how this stuff it just keeps rolling, and there's so much going on. I don't know how anybody keeps up with this stuff. I just don't know. Company names, everything. It's unbelievable. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, if it wasn't for Twitter and I don't know how I would I'd find all this between Twitter and Google Alerts. Those two things.
That's the trick, right?
Help me a great deal.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know what? One day what you should definitely do is publish how you are doing your Twitter alerts, because I think that would be a good lesson for everybody to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So So why don't we just jump right into this? Before we go, I've got a video actually, because our first story is about a company called QuantumDigital that has launched QuantumCards. So I'm going to run this video. You guys are going to get the benefit. You know, there is audio to this for those of you who are just who aren't watching this. But we're gonna come back and I'm going to get a Steve to explain this technology to me and why this is relevant. So we're going to run this. This is QuantumDigital and the launch of their new product called QuantumCards. I'm just going to pull it up here and hope that it works. Here we go.
Getting the word out about your local business from the shopper while on the move just got a whole lot easier. Just snap a photo or choose one from your gallery. Add your message and contact info and choose where you want them mailed. To neighborhoods around your current location or to people on your contact list. Your postcards go out next business day, reaching your customers fast.
What is this? What is QuantumCards?
Well, they're calling it the first direct mail marketing iPhone app for small business, and really what this is, I think it's a really interesting concept. I'm not sure how effective it is, but I think the concept has some merit and could potentially be valuable. So what they're saying is if you are a business person, small business, you're on the road, you're on the go. And the example that they give is, you're a real estate agent. And so, you're in a neighborhood that, for an open house or whatever it is that you're doing. Through this app, you can basically create postcards, direct mail pieces, and order them and have them pushed out into a particular area on the fly. And so the idea here is you're generating direct mail local to a specific area based on you triggering this order on the fly from wherever you are in real time. And so this isn't like I'm going to be there 3 weeks from now, so I thought about this long in advance, so I'm gonna blast the area with a postcard saying, hey, I'm gonna be coming around. Make sure you have your card ready to get your I don't know, save 20% when I come to the door or whatever it is. You can actually do that when you're in the neighborhood or on the fly with an app like this. It's an interesting concept. Like I said, I don't know how many different professions this actually applies to, or how many people are actually have a need for generating this kind of response. But conceptually, it's an interesting play with the technology. Yeah.
So it's kind of like I have a hard time, understanding why this is relevant. Like aside from the fact that you can print or you can take a picture of somebody's house, it's a little creepy, isn't it? And say like, hey, I was here 3 weeks ago, and then you get a postcard in the mail. I'm struggling with it. Other than maybe this is like Postagram, right? Which was one of these companies that popped up on the Instagram API, which allowed you to take a photo. That you did that you had in Instagram and send that as a postcard. I get that, and maybe that's what this is, but I don't get the business aspect from this. It's tough for me to really wrap my head around this, other than it's just like Postagram. Am I wrong there?
No, I mean, well, from what I'm understanding, they're not focusing on the photo aspects at all. I mean, this is about advertising, whatever it is you're advertising. I'm here, I'm a real estate guy. I've got listings in the area that I want to promote, or there's some event that's going on, or what have you, special sale, if you're a merchant, pop-up store, whatever, right? I mean, it's, they're going after the business aspects, and they're basically saying, look, we need to, anytime that something is temporal that's going on, or it's in a specific area, we need to let the neighbors, the neighborhood know about it. sure, we can still go and put the old poster up on the on the lamp pole and staple it on and do all that kind of stuff, or put the posting in the local grocery store. And that stuff still happens. I know, it certainly happens in my neighborhood. But the idea here, I think, is, I'm on the go. I'd love to let more people know that, something's going on around here. Let me log into this app. Let me generate a print piece, whatever that looks like, a direct mail piece. And, I place that order through the app, and it automatically gets mailed out, next day, I guess, or what have you.
Well, I mean, I suppose it's an interesting concept. I'm with you. I think that the technology is neat. It's a little creepy, but and I think that this really is just an idea looking for a technology, or technology looking for an idea. I'm not really sold on this.
Yeah.
But I think it's better than the next idea, the next story. I don't know how to segue away from that. I don't think that it's like QuantumCards. It's an interesting concept. I just don't know how this. It's if you're going to set up a location campaign. If I'm a realtor in my location, or if I've got I was pulling up some examples. I got a shop, a car shop in that location. Then I'm going to do what I typically would do, which is not send individualized 99-cent pieces. I might advertise in a local newspaper, highly localized newspaper, or do my own flyers like we already get in the mail that are probably a lot cheaper. Anyway, not sure about this. Not sure. Tough way to start. It's going to get even tougher though, Asif, with our second story. Don't you think?
I think so. Just a little bit.
Talk about this one. This is a company called what are these guys called? DrinkLobby. Now I you know what? Why don't you explain it? Because I've got this great quote from the press release that I just want to pull up. But DrinkLobby. Go ahead.
So this is my understanding of this is about social sharing around what you're drinking. In the sort of like virtual rooms to kind of hang out and drink with other people kind of thing. It's sort of like a turntable.fm but for alcohol.
Yeah, that's what I got from it as well.
Yeah,
I'm going to pull up a quote here. You're not going to be able to see it very well, but this is a company called started by Cesar Guinovart. My apologies if I got his name, and his wife Natalie. And the quote that really got me is that he said, "DrinkLobby was created by veteran software mastermind." Asif, veteran software mastermind. That is awesome. I don't know how you become a mastermind.
And the wife's a sommelier or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. So she understands wine, and he's a mastermind, a software mastermind. But this, I tried to go to their website. It doesn't have any information. It's broken everywhere. I went to his main company's website, which is something called onsitesoft.com, and there's broken images everywhere as well. So I'm like, software mastermind. My only question about this is why? Is this just an example of somebody trying to cash in here and like DrinkLobby? Drinking is social. So when you don't have a friend to drink with, jump onto a mobile app.
It's a virtual. Hey man, it's not unlike what's the booyah thing?
Oh yeah. But the difference here is that this is I mean, for all of this drinks, he's talking about like whether you sip scotch and understand it, or just want to chug it, or you just local beer or domestic beer, or specialized beer or wines. It's like this is it's just an interesting concept that this actually gets built. A lot of effort went into it, obviously, because I mean it's pretty comprehensive. But why, man?
Well, it's got a lot of features.
It's got a ton of features.
It's feature rich.
It does.
Feature
wish
rich.
lists, ratings. You can win trophies. What does that mean? Like if I
you can check into the drink.
Drink.
Yeah. Facebook and Twitter.
I get a trophy.
Discount.
I know. I don't mean to be critical about this, but I just like why? But if you're interested in understanding why, go to drinklobby.com and see what you can find there, because I can't find anything. I can't, nothing worked. The about page didn't work anyway. So if DrinkLobby, if you're listening to this, reach out. We'd love to have you on to maybe explain this.
Yeah, they're going to be all over that.
Come on, we're hospitable.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else to say?
Or better yet, we can meet you in a room and have a drink together.
That's right. Oh, it's lonely. Drinking, I mean, I guess there are worse things. I mean, you could be drinking alone, right? So at least everybody says there's, it's happy hour somewhere around the world right now. So enjoy it with DrinkLobby. DrinkLobby.com, but drink responsibly. And if you're not, use our good friend Nick Quain's company, Pound Taxi, Selwand. Go to Pound Taxi. I love that. PoundTaxi.com. Yeah,
great company.
If you're gonna use DrinkLobby at home, that's fine. But if you're gonna use DrinkLobby on the road, call a cab. Pound Taxi. Oh man.
All right.
Moving on. These two is a good story here. PointInside. Let's talk about this. They launched something called nSide, which is a highly contextualized, highly localized indoor private ad network. I like this idea, I think.
Yeah, this is great. So PointInside company we've talked about quite a bit on the show. Indoor location player. Used a lot in retail. Kroger and various other companies have been working with these guys. And so what they've done is they basically said, let's come up with or let's package up really a private ad network play, on top of this indoor location service that we have. So the idea is you're in here. We've talked a lot about the power of indoor location to kind of triangulate somebody's position down to, a few feet, know exactly where they are in a store. And so now what we're talking about is, hyper targeted messaging based on that, very, very finite location in this context. And so this is part of their bigger customer engagement platform. And it's also white label. So what's happening here is you can take this sort of targeting capability, this ad network capability, and if you've already got an app, you can bake it inside of that as well. So there's integration elements available.
And this they partnered with a huge guy, right? They partnered with a pretty large retailer to launch this. It's just a follow-on. What is it? Mayer?
Yeah, Mayer.
And so I mean the way I understood it is that the concept is you're walking into a store. You've got the Mayer app already installed because that's how it works, right? So that's the white label piece.
Yes.
And then you maybe have a shopping list on that, and they're pushing you deals exclusively based on really where your location is, like what aisle you're on. Exactly. And then it's pushing it out, and I think that's pretty cool technology as long as it's contextualized and not too annoying.
Yeah, if the app's already sort of knowledgeable, so to speak, in what you're looking for and can direct you and exactly where you need to go, help you navigate that store, and push you deals and offers that are relevant to the things on your list, for example, in your context. I mean, that's just making my trip faster, better, cheaper, all the things I need, right? So,
and the other side of this obviously is it's a revenue opportunity for these stores, and I think that they have to be very careful about how they actually push these advertising out. You'll run into the same thing where it was the Groupon effect, which was I'm not looking for a tire rotation when I'm having a cup of coffee, right? You've got to make sure that it is contextualized. That even the example that they give in some of the articles that I've read about this is around you're looking for flour. Why not? Hey, we'll push you a coupon for cookie dough. Maybe that's not. But it gives you the opportunity, and I look at retail as this great mass of opportunity, obviously. But you pay for shelf space, you pay for that spot, which is at eye level. So anything that's at eye level, and then you paid the premium for, and everything that is further away from eye level, you're obviously paying a little bit less for shelf placement.
Yeah.
This gives an opportunity for those guys who are at the bottom shelf to be able to push their product up in a different medium through this Mayer app, through PointInside's app, ad network. You can actually draw advertising dollars for that company from those smaller retailers or manufacturers that are on the bottom shelf, and I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, in essence, this sort of empowers the merchant, the retailer, to actually create their own ad network and sell inventory, basically, right? They become a supplier of available media, right? That all those brands whose products are in that store can buy space.
And I love that. I mean, I think that's really interesting, and you're going to see the face of retail change as a result of that. Where that shelf, we've talked about it many times on this show, where that shelf, that middle shelf, that eye level shelf isn't going to matter as much because the smaller retailers are going to have an opportunity to influence a buy decision more than ever, and the smaller manufacturers are going to benefit from that. And I really like this thing. And if you're a Mayor app user, if you're a shopper and you've used these applications before, we'd love to hear you. Reach out, untether@gmail.com. This is a pretty cool technology. Who knows where it goes? Because I don't know that stores will stay configured the way that they are right now, and I'm always leery about companies that are trying to just emulate real world experience from a retail perspective on a mobile device, because mobile will disrupt that real world experience. And
no, I mean, and these guys, the guys at PointInside, they get it. I mean, these guys, these are guys that you and I have talked to many a time. We've had Pete Coleman recently on the show. Todd Sherman, who runs marketing, Josh Marty, these guys are, these guys get it, right? And they're smart guys. They know what's going on. They understand retail, and they're applying the technology, in the right ways, I believe. So
yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think that with this, what happens with this is that you end up really disrupting the technology or the way that retail works. And if you can do this, if you can disrupt retail, it's going to be by being comfortable with the way that it works right now, slowly integrating, and then changing it at the other end. I think that's what's happening here. Pretty cool. PointInside. We're launching something, their private ad network called nSide. That's story number 3. All right, let's ratchet it up a little bit here. We got this company called Picksie for our 4th story. Picksie launching a ticket purchasing service, and I think this should be a quick conversation.
Yeah, I mean, Picksie. We've talked about these companies a long time ago now.
Crazy.
I can't remember when we talked about Picksie. It's like probably maybe coming up on a year. I'm not sure, but anyhow. An app like many of the others out there, about social discovery, finding restaurants, bars, events around you, etc. They've added a new feature around, as you just said, purchasing tickets. So the idea is that you found a concert or a sporting event or something through the app that around you, and now you have this option to you can buy a ticket for that event directly through the app. Doesn't seem really innovative to me. I mean, there's lots of ways you can buy tickets and lots of apps that you buy tickets. I suppose layering it on top of their existing functionality, it's a nice little to have. I don't know. What do you think, Rob?
Well, this is my big thing here. My big thing here is really about what happens when there's excess inventory. And I think that what Picksie does here is they really do focus on the excess inventory piece. Is that these guys are, when you're standing in Times Square and you don't know what you want to do and you want to buy a ticket to something and you don't know what's available, but something catches your fancy, you want to be able to buy at that moment. And I think from a retailer's perspective, from a restaurateur's perspective, from an event perspective, this is one of those things that are very valuable, where you can put up your excess inventory, sell your ticket. I think that the next piece for this is a time-based auction because of scarcity. It's like 6:45 or 15 minutes before the show starts, prices start to come down. If there isn't any demand for your show, if people wait and they know that the last 15 minutes things are going to go on sale and there starts to be a demand, prices stabilize. They don't drop as much. It's not just a clear-cut 30% off or 40% off or 50% off just to get you in the door. You don't want to game that system. So I think that what Picksie does is the beginning of this, where you have, whether it's Picksie or anybody else, I think that this is very smart. They've got an established base, a solid user base, and now it's conditioned, right? Here, they've been able to buy movie tickets on the Picksie app for some time now. So now, why not? Why not bring it up with events, sporting events and entertainment events other than movies? So I like this. This is what we've talked about this. We talked about this a year ago, I think. And if this is the future, you know, this is where I start to see companies helping retailers, helping events. That seat, if it's not used, expires. So let's start using that effectively. And Picksie might be the first company that's doing this, right?
All right, I can buy that.
We're having a challenging, obviously, as you guys know, you're pretty aware of. I'm trying to switch as quickly as I can. When one of us freezes, I'm going to go to a screen because we're having some challenge with the bandwidth. So bear with us. We will make sure there's continuity in this as we go. So every once in a while, I'm frozen like this. And Seif is doing the same thing. But I will quickly move away from our face and we'll get through this. All right, fifth and last big story of the week. This company called Jetshop in Stockholm, heavily influenced by what we saw in the subways in Japan. I got a long video here. It's 2.5 minutes, but it's Korea. Yeah, in the subways in Korea. My apologies. Why don't you explain what this is? I'm going to cue up the video, Seif, and then we're going to sit back and watch this for 2.5 minutes. It goes through the entire story, but if you just want to cue it up for us.
Yeah, so a couple years ago now, our good friends at Tesco in Korea basically took over subway stations and in the underground there, and took the sidewalls and basically replicated a grocery store with all the shelves and the products. And while you're waiting for your train, basically, let's use that time. And so they had QR codes against every product. You could buy, order all your groceries by scanning QR codes and pay for everything through your mobile device, and then have it all delivered to you by the time you got home while your groceries were there. So basically the same concept's being applied on a much bigger scale now in Stockholm's central station with Jetshop. And so they've created a 130 square meter concept superstore, they're calling it. 20 different departments or categories of product. And supermarkets, fashion, a whole bunch of different things here going on. So really cool, really
Let's
cool.
take a look at this.
Now
bear with us. It's about 2.5 minutes, but it's worthwhile. They'll walk through the narrative and fast forward 2 minutes and 45 seconds if you don't want to watch this. Pretty cool. Here it is.
On Monday the 12th of March 2012, something happened at Stockholm Central Station that would mark the start of a completely new way of looking at retailing. During that day, 250,000 passed through. Before the week was out, this figure had risen to 1.5 million. At 6:30 a.m, the first customers are welcomed to the Jetshop Superstore. What meets them is a pop-up mall containing 20 different shops. The goods are shown in pictures, and next to each item is a QR code. When the customers scan the code with their smartphones, they're taken directly to the ordering page for the item in the online shop, where they choose quantity or size and pay. No shelves or hangers are needed, and there are no checkout queues. A space of just 130 square meters accommodates everything from the ICA supermarket chain's Marcassi delivery service and the latest fashion from Nelly, to bulky accessories from the camping store Camping Barrehuset. This is shopping that doesn't take up any of the consumer's time. Instead of just waiting for the next train, travellers can take the opportunity to do some shopping. This is shopping that doesn't end when you leave the shop. In the passageway leading to the metro, Jetshop has added pop-up stores, 16 pedestals, each with its own item and QR code. All you have to do is lift the handset and scan. But why should the shopping experience end here? What would happen if the ads on the escalator were to offer an opportunity to buy, and the billboards above the tracks? Jetshop Superstore is not an experiment in mobile shopping, e-commerce or x-commerce. It's the first real example of the retailing of tomorrow. The challenge for a company like Jetshop is not just in designing the best e-commerce platforms. It's a matter of predicting and taking account of new patterns of consumption.
You get this great idea here, which is you get the wall of product that pops up, right? Just basically a wall of QR codes, a wall of product and or NFC, And then they take it even further, which is one of the best things. These pop-up stores, like every pillar and every ounce of a wall, instead of just a dumb advertisement, becomes a retail opportunity. God, that is one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah, and you know, like for me, I mean, it's location-based marketing, in the real sense, right? It's not just purely a mobile thing. It's wherever people are, we're influencing them with all the potential types of media that are there that can influence them. And and I think it's that blending of mediums that starts to make it really interesting and effective. And I talked a lot lately about how it's not just about content. We say content's king, but it's the experience now, right? It's all about how do we bring that content to people and how are people experiencing it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And this really is that. This is so powerful. And so it kind of it goes hand in hand with what we were talking about in PointInside. Is that this is what Jetshop is doing is disrupting retail, and what PointInside is doing is basically extending the retail experience. So if you think about it, anywhere that I stand, think about vendors on the street corner in New York City and Manhattan selling this way as well. You don't have like just 9 fake Gucci purses. You can have 1,000 fake Gucci purses and have them shipped to your house later on that day.
Orders.
But that's what I'm talking about. Is like it's incredible.
Yeah. No, I know.
Pop-up stores everywhere. Just keep a lookout for these kind of things, because this is the future of retail. Retail happening wherever you are, wherever people are waiting. And it's not just about putting up a billboard. It's about actually doing transactions. So this is the perfect confluence of where mobile should be, driving tonnage, driving sales.
So we started weak, but hey, we're finishing strong.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah, the last 3 stories have been great. I love that. So those are it. Those are the top 5 that we've got. If you think that those are great, if you don't think that those are the right ones, reach out, untethered@gmail.com or Asif@thelbma. We'd love to hear from you. Please let us know if what you think of those stories.
Yeah, and just remember, complaints go to Rob, praise to me. So, yeah.
Wait, isn't that the? I'll edit. I'm gonna.
Yeah. No, it's probably the other way, since I pick all the stories.
But totally edit that one out. I'll edit this out. Well, let's talk about. This is good, because we're going to lead into our first funding story with this. It's going to be a clip from it's a clip that I did from an interview that I did for Untethered.tv with Andrew Paradise, who's the CEO of a company called Aislebuyer. I'm going to pull him up right here. Aislebuyer was recently bought. How about as recent as rumors floating around on Tuesday of this week, confirmed at the end of the week that they were bought by Intuit. So we'll talk about that in a second. But here is Andrew Paradise, who is the CEO of Aislebuyer. He's just going to do a 4 or 5 minute clip here on what his company is, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the acquisition that Aislebuyer that just happened with Intuit. So here is Andrew. Andrew, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate you spending some time this afternoon and enlightening us as to what's going on in the retail space when it comes to mobile. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, I'm hopeful that I got some of it right. You guys are classified as a mobile self-checkout solution for retailers, but there's so much more to what you guys do. And it seems like every day there's so much more that you guys are doing. So why don't you give everybody a little bit of an insight about what Aislebuyer actually does?
Sure. So we founded the company with the idea that we could use camera phones to do augmented reality in stores. This was really before companies were doing kind of the barcode scan with a cell phone, and it became quickly apparent. We had started moving towards building our first barcoding solution around the same time that companies like Red Laser and Shop Savvy sprung up. And what became apparent to us is that there was a pretty sizable push by those kinds of companies towards online comparison shopping using barcodes, but really no one had worked on how to build a augmented in-store experience using smartphones and using image recognition. So we really started working on how we could redesign the store experience from when you walk in the door until you walk out of the door using mobile phones. And we started with the checkout because we felt like that was a really interesting place to start. And the idea there was, okay, so since the history of retail, people have always paid at the edge of the store. There's been a shopkeeper, and that's evolved into store clerks. But what if everyone could just take out their phone and tap and pay on it? And how would that work? We started working through that, and then we moved into the image recognition piece of being able to add barcodes and invented mobile self-checkout. And the idea here really is that we can put a self-checkout machine inside your phone by letting you have an algorithm that will let you scan things with your phone and then tap and actually make payments. And first we used PayPal for making payments, and then we moved from there to actually building out a mobile wallet so that the retailers that we sell to now can have 68 different payment types.
68?
68, yeah. Everything from loyalty, gift card, points, virtual currencies to your major credit cards and anybody, your Visa debit, things like that.
Yep.
And we've, at the same time, in the last 2 years, we've gone from myself and a few developers just kind of writing code to a 28-person team. And we've gone from launching out of stealth mode after about 16 months this past August to we have signed up brands representing about 9,000 stores.
Wow.
So you'll see it in a lot of places really soon. I think it's going to be, whether it's us or somebody else, I think that mobile payments and being able to have this kind of immersive cell phone experience from inside the retailer to the edge of the retailer to even beyond is going to be huge, way beyond Aislebuyer, although I hope we're the one to bring it to you.
Well, and let's just go back a little bit to that story, because you went from integration with PayPal, which I think is always everybody's first test into this, is, especially when they're testing transactions, and a trusted brand like PayPal. Talk about the way that, so 68 payment methods from loyalty cards to other credit cards. Was this a challenge to build that mobile wallet piece? Is that just a separate product, or is it, talk about that process to build that.
Right, so the way we built the entire product, actually, it's a software development kit, and we're going to actually start making it available to mobile developers very soon so that they can use our software development kit to connect to physical stores. And I think you're going to see everything from kind of early concepts like Foursquare, Scavenger, onwards, starting to involve real-world actions.
Yeah.
So whether it's a retail store, a museum, or anything else, all of these different physical locations are now becoming mobilely enabled. What I mean by that is there are certain things you might do at a museum, like look at the museum map, or buy an admission ticket or a membership. Imagine if you can do all of those things with your phone, and then imagine if beyond that there's an API layer sitting on top of it that allows mobile developers to build new kinds of applications we never even dreamed of. Yeah. Think about like Foursquare, but instead of doing a check-in, what if a museum could give you a couple of points for each exhibit you go to?
Yeah.
And you can get really interesting, really specific interactive experiences that were never possible when it was kind of a kiosk-only world. The amazing thing, I think, is that these devices are so inexpensive. There's so many of them. I just saw a stat. I think it's a projection that there'll be more than 10 billion of these devices by the end of next year.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if you've seen this stat, Rob, but I saw one recently that we just passed more shipments of smartphones than personal computers.
Jeez, yeah, it's a tipping point, obviously.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So quickly. I mean, it's been just a handful of years.
So that is Aislebuyer and Andrew Paradise. So with that, we might as well. We're just going to jump right into this because there's serendipity. I really enjoyed that interview. Aislebuyer is a very, very, very cool company, and they were bought by Intuit this week. Rumors between 180 and 200 million dollars. I'd like to think that some of that awareness was because of the interview he did on Tether.tv. So I'll just take my small commission check for that. What do you think of this buy?
I like this. I think we've talked a lot about sort of the payments space heating up and the merchants kind of trying all kinds of things. We talked about Square many times. We've talked about recently PayPal with their hardware piece called here, Intuit's a company we don't hear as much about, but they're a very active player. They've got a thing called GoPayment in this space. And they needed to get stronger on the mobile side, and this is a good move, I think, for Intuit. Aislebuyer, a small company, 37 employees. Purchase price wasn't disclosed on this particular deal, but they had raised $11 million since 2009. So, and they've got some strong technology, and I think that this gives Intuit that ability to go right up against where Square is at the moment. So it's not just the ability to do mobile payments. It's one of the key things about Square right now is that whole piece around not even having to what's the word I'm looking for? You don't have to have that sort of face-to-face interaction between merchant.
Yeah, you don't have to stand in line. Basically, is what.
You don't have to stand in line, right? Because they've got that sort of geofencing, proximity-based. The merchant application knows the consumer who's using the system. They can recognize them that way. You just got to say your name, and it's all good, kind of thing. And so the Aislebuyer stuff is very similar in that sense. It has some geofencing capabilities in it. There's a merchant and consumer piece to it. I like this. I think this is a good move for Intuit.
Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. And anytime you don't have to stand in line again, it just seems like this episode is about the retail experience. And we've talked about it from PointInside, from Jetshop, even from Picksie, and here's Aislebuyer that is also trying to disrupt that whole thing. Why do we have to queue in a line to pay at a cash, to wait for somebody to type in this stuff? We got everything that we need in our hands: our credit card, the product, a scan, a barcode, or something like that we can scan. It only makes sense that I should be able to walk into a store, basically Midas touch everything, debit my bank account, whatever it is, pay for through my credit card, and just go. And I think that Intuit now has this really, really, really great competitive advantage because their Go payment system is up against Square and it's up against PayPal. And how did they do that? They use something like Aislebuyer to say, okay, well, you know what? Forget the line.
Yeah. Yeah, and from yours and my perspective, one of the added benefits of this particular deal for us is, the Go payment service is actually available in Canada where the other two aren't.
That's big.
And so this is great for me because hopefully the Aislebuyer stuff flows through and we'll get that up here as well, because I just think we need this kind of stuff wherever you are in the world. Not having to stand in line to make a payment. I'm all for it. No
kidding, Asif. The least amount of time I can spend in a retail establishment, the better. So I like this. Yeah. I'm sad to see a company like Aislebuyer get acquired, but I did hear rumors around $180 to $200 million. I think there's a published price in there, and I think that's I love people who take the money, right? So please. Let us know. I'm going to see if I can get Andrew back on once things settle down. But I really appreciated him sitting down and having some time with me when he did. And this was just recently. It was in the last 6 months. So you can find that whole interview up on untether.tv. I'm just going to pull it up.
And speaking of people who take the money, we got a couple more.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
We're obviously talking about Facebook deciding to go out and spend, at least $1 billion this week. I don't know about your weekend, but I didn't spend $1 billion this weekend. But apparently, over a 48-hour period from Good Friday to Easter Monday of last week, Facebook reached out to Kevin Systrom. So Mark Zuckerberg himself reached out to Kevin Systrom himself. And said, I want to buy Instagram, and the negotiations ensued. Over a 48-hour period, Facebook spent $1 billion. That's crazy, Asif.
Yeah, it's just insane. The valuation's insane. But hey, I think this is, for me, this and the other acquisition too that we're going to talk about in a second, also a Facebook acquisition. This is all about Facebook, getting ready for IPO. This is all about them understanding they're weak in mobile. They need to ramp up on the mobile side. They need to be able to have all sorts of alternative, revenue streams coming in, once they're a public company. We all know the scrutiny that comes with that. We all know that, quarter by quarter, they're going to be under the microscope, and they got to be showing growth. And it ain't going to come from, just traditional Facebook by itself. So having all these things and figuring out how we're going to monetize them, and continuing to, sort of still be that social behemoth that they are, right? Because there's social aspects to Instagram, there's social aspects to Tactile. We're going to talk about in a second. So, and at the end of this, there's a lot of data, as well, which is, a lot of the real value of that company. So
yeah, this is a. I definitely have my views about this because this is an insane amount of money, and there's so much that's going on in the in the blogosphere around. Was this a good buy? Was this a bad buy? But the bottom line is that this is a bunch of millions of dollars in cash, a bunch of millions of dollars in stock, golden handcuffs for quite some time, and a 13-person team that sold out for $1 billion. Ultimately, this means that Kevin Systrom is on the, could be worth more than $400 million for a photo sharing application that ultimately was left for dead by the original founders or the original investors, which is kind of crazy. They went off and invested in the competition. And where's the competition now? Why I like this deal? Because Systrom took the money. And he negotiated the hell out of this thing because he had a $500 million valuation. And, the day before this started and sold for $1 billion. So good on him.
I love it. This is, I'm completely with you. I think, this is what the Groupon guys should have done. But we all know where that is.
Yeah,
but anyways,
I see if I don't often do this. I'm going to pull up. I wrote an article about this and just on Untethered.tv, and I think my very last line on this was, this is going to end up. Obviously, they took the money for a reason, and it's much better to end up in this situation where you got $400 million in your pocket than a penniless, broke, bankrupt Groupon founder who is now under suspicion of cooking the books. Right? It's like the Ponzi scheme is up. At least Systrom took the money, and you got to realize that where there's a threshold about greed and just stupid greed, and $1 billion is fine. And people say like I'd love to be on the on the phone just as a third-party observer between the conversation between Mark Zuckerberg and Systrom. But, I think that's just back and forth. $500,000, $500 million, no billion, $500 million, no billion, right? Whatever that negotiation happened. But I would love to have been I would love to have overheard the conversation with Kevin Systrom and his mom. Because that would have been the best conversation ever. Hey, Mom, guess what? I just sold my company for $1 billion.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Facebook started the week with Instagram, finished the week with a company called Tactile, a company that we've actually talked about.
Yeah, and yet another company that sort of sits in that, at the retailer merchant level, a little green box-like device, tile-like device. That you sit there and it's kind of like quasi NFC, tap this thing and, loyalty and sharing and purchase activity and, frequency of visits. And, it's all about data. At the end of the day, all of this stuff that we're talking about for Facebook is data. We want to know the most about you, more than anybody else knows about you. And that started from a Facebook perspective with, what you're doing from in your sort of personal life and life with friends, that aspect of things. And now Facebook's starting to say, wait a second, mobiles is the next big play, but not just, photos and status updates. We want to know about where you're shopping and what you're doing and what you're buying and all that other stuff too. So, they get it. They're making that migration, and Tactile is just the next piece of it.
This is really the beginning of that digital world for Facebook being brought over to the physical world. And I think that one of the biggest things that they're having a hard time in everything is that they're being challenged on is the impact that you can have on my terrestrial business by doing this online. Because we've heard all these horror stories of companies that have gone online, put the stores online on Facebook, and then pulled back pulled back their efforts on Facebook because it wasn't coming to fruition and they couldn't measure it effectively. And now this really gives you the ability to run specials on your Facebook page and then crossover, allow them to redeem them online or redeem them in person. I think this is a transient technology. We talked about this. When if NFC ever, or whatever that technology is, fulfills its promise in a retail landscape, a box like this, like TagTile does, is going to be irrelevant. But it just shows that Facebook is really serious about shoring up its mobile play and bridging that digital gap, which we're seeing.
Yeah, and so you take the 37. You take the Instagram team, you take these guys from TagTile, you got the Goala guys, from before. I mean, they've got a lot of smart heads over there now that understand.
So you know what the rumors are now, right? That everybody's talking about that Facebook has set the bar for everything's going to be $1 billion and above. Like Path is going to be $1 billion, and I think Path would be the perfect buy for either Twitter or Google. I mean, I thought that Instagram was a better fit with Twitter than it is with Facebook, but we're going to start to see this, and Foursquare's name keeps coming up, right? Foursquare's name keeps coming up as the final piece for Facebook, and I wonder, because they just launched their deals, and that works really well with TagTile. It also, it just serendipitous that this happened, obviously, but it's all timing. But Foursquare, I think they're saying by April 20th is when their silent period happens. They can't buy any more companies. The IPO happens. They're going to raise a bunch of billions of dollars. But rumors floating around like everywhere that Foursquare, that should be the next logical piece.
It's entirely possible, but I think the big piece right now for Facebook is they're not in the mobile payment space, right?
Right.
They got their credits. They got their credits and they got a lot of things, but now they got a lot of smart guys over here who understand payments and loyalty and mobile and how those things all fit together, right? So who knows? Who knows?
This is interesting times. Facebook is shoring this up, and anything that they do add in terms of a company, whether it's a company like Instagram, a company like Goala, even a company like TagTile, even a company like Foursquare, I think that they make this money up based on their IPO, the confidence that they have in the IPO, right? So I think that's when an investor looks at this and says we are definitely going to invest in this company, it's because they've just bought all this technology.
This is a whole different IPO than Groupon. Yeah. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, we hope. Hopefully, there's no Ponzi scheme at the end of this. So long conversation around this, but two great big acquisitions this week. Obviously, Intuit buying Aislebuyer. I'm told between $180 and $200 million, which is awesome. I love that. And then, not to be undone, Facebook acquiring Instagram at the beginning of the week for $1 billion, and TagTile, we don't know what it is, but it's not $1 billion, somewhere less, between 0 and $1 billion. And we'll just do it's probably a rounding error, around $1 billion. Yeah. So big buys this week, and Facebook really launching itself into the mobile space, taking itself very seriously in this.
Love it.
That's it. I think all that's left is the resource of the week, and then we should be through this. We should be through this disaster of a bandwidth episode. That's what we're going to call it. Bandwidth. No bandwidth. So this is a study that an SPA report on the impact, retail impact, of QR codes and NFC by 2016. And there, what is this number, Asif?
We're basically saying that, by 2016, NFC and QR are going to be a $2.3 billion business. And it's interesting because, when I read through this, so SPA is Smith's Point Analytics, if you're looking for it, okay? SPA, the guys who put this piece of research out. Never heard of them before, but anyhow. I'm certainly not a guy that sits there and read every research report, but this is one that kind of jumped out at me because we're talking a lot about QR. Take the Jetshop thing we talked about earlier. You got QR codes in there. You got lots happening. But when I looked at this number, they said 2.3 billion by 2016. The interesting thing is most of the market today, from reading this report, is in Japan, and they're basically saying this is 2.3 billion. And 1.5 billion of that will be outside of Japan. I'm like, okay, So that means like the other billion is going to be in Japan. I mean that's like a lot of NFC QR transaction going on in one market. That is crazy.
You can see that because of I mean we're in Canada, so we are spoiled for retail space, right?
We got none.
So we're not really innovating up here. I challenge that we're not innovating up here in the retail location because we've got empty plots of land that we can just build, like in the States, like these megaplexes with big retail outlets that are gonna basically, we're gonna look back in time, 100 years from now, 150 years from now, those are gonna be the equivalent to rusted hulks of cars or tankers washed up on the shore, because we're not going to be using retail outlets like this, like we have gotten used to it over the last 20 years. And in the Far East, we're talking about limited space, mass, dense population, and they're looking for ways to innovate. And people don't, I've been, you've been, hung around in Asia for long enough to understand that transit is, from a North American perspective, very difficult. And the way that we can bring retail to the user, to the consumer, NFC, QR codes, just like we saw with Jetshop. This is the future for them, and I think this is the future for us.
I think it's the future for everyone. It's obviously a lot more relevant given the restrictions on real estate in markets like Japan. So obviously the density it makes sense, but I think we're going to see this everywhere. And I love the Jetshop stuff. I think it's just fantastic. Or what Tesco is doing in Korea or whatever the markets are. And I was looking at another one very similar to that the other day. I wonder if I still have it handy. Exact same thing to the Tesco thing. I just pulled it up here. Giant. So this is in the U.S. Giant grocery stores are doing this with Peapod.
So it's Peapod that's doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see if I can find something here. But
Peapod and Giant.
These are the kind of things that ultimately, as we've been saying this whole thing, that change the scope of retail. And whether this is going to be QR codes or NFC, I don't know that anybody knows. Everybody's betting on NFC, and we've had many conversations around this, and it swirls. Yeah. But something like this, something that enables a transaction, something that allows you to buy from a poster, from a screen, from a bus shelter, from an in-bus or an in-subway advertising. It doesn't matter from I don't know, OCR, the equivalent of photo recognition. I'd like to buy, those are the kind of things that are going to be happening. And I think it's going to be that seamless, that simple. I should be able to point my phone to something that somebody's wearing in, not in a creepy way, and be able to order that, right? And I think that's where things are going to get to, where we are going to be walking billboards, and we already are. So this is going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. So, I think that when we start to think about this, I think it's a much bigger than 2.3 billion.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But I'm sure we'll see studies like this for the North American market specifically, and the European markets and whatnot. But it's just interesting that half of the demand, it seems, is purely in Japan. So.
That's it. So the link is up there. It's at, we found this at nfcnews.com. It's a third report that you see on the main page if it's recent, but there's obviously a link up there. I think that is it, Asif. We are done for episode number 73. Of course, if you guys out there have any feedback, comments, concerns, criticisms, send them over to Asif that way. If you have any praise, heap them on to me. Bring it to me at untether at gmail.com. Asif, remember Asif at the LBMA for complaints, frustrations. Our apologies for the bandwidth constraint. I don't know what it is about this, but Sunday nights usually are very clean, but we'll get that rectified. Yeah. But yeah, if you have any suggestions for stories, we'd love to hear it. Reach out to us anytime. And don't forget, head to, if you're in Toronto, go to the LBMA event this Wednesday night. Just go to the lbma.com to register. And if you are in Albany tonight, which is when this podcast will go up on Monday night, just scream my name. I am there. I'll be right in the front, crying like a little baby girl. That's exactly what I do at Springsteen concert.
Or just use one of those geolocation apps to see where Rob is.
I'll be using Banjo.
Yeah, Banjo.
So,
there you go.
Yeah, but if none of this happens and you don't get to either Albany or to Toronto for the event, we'll see you next week for episode number 74, where we bring you the most important stories in the location-based marketing world of the past week, every single week, 73 consecutive weeks. So we'll see you next week for episode number 4. Asif, have a good one.